session. Hurry up, everyone. School's beginning. Are you coming, children? Hurry up. All right, children, I would like everyone to come in and sit down at their desk. We're about ready to begin class. Everyone make sure. I want you to get seated. Quickly now, we don't have time to waste. We do not have time to waste. Thank you. Everyone quietly sit in your seats. Wonderful. Welcome to school. And I also want to welcome our visitors who are going to be seeing a little bit about this school. This school is one of 5 that was in Schaumburg Township back in the middle 1800s. We think this school was built around 1860. We do have proof that it was on the property over at Schaumburg and Roselle Road in 1872. But we do believe it was built in the 1860s. It's very interesting. One-room schoolhouses operated with probably anywhere from 6 to 12 students. These were the desks that they sat at. These desks are really very easy to get into. And if you recall, the children used the little ink wells, the hole in the desk. They did not have ballpoint pens. And some of the other things that they used every day, they had their pail that they brought their lunch in. So this is similar to something that they would have brought with them. And then this is the bucket. In the morning, we would send one of the children across to the nearest farm to get water for the bucket. And this would be used all day long. Everyone who needed a drink of water would drink out of that bucket, out of this dipper. Now, we really wouldn't want to be doing that, but that's what was done back then. This schoolhouse had no electricity. If you look up, you can see we've got the oil lamps. There was no electricity, there was no running water. The children had outhouses, one for the boys and one for the girls. Every morning we opened the shutters for the light. The windows would be left open during the warmer days. The shutters were there and closed to protect the building during storms. And so you can see this is really very much like the way it would have looked in 1860. These are blackboards, real genuine blackboards, the slate ones. And this school number was 54. There were the 5 schools in the township. This one was the public school number 54. There was 51, 52, 53, 54, and 55. This is the only one that was restored, moved to this property. St. Peter's gave us permission. It belongs to the village of Schaumburg. This building is maintained on the interior by the Schaumburg Township Historical Society. They're the ones who dust it and clean it and mop the floors, and then the village takes care of the outside of the building, any repairs that might need to be done. The teachers who taught in this school would have been very young. The teachers were maybe 18, 19 years old, very young women. They had strict rules that they would follow in their classes. They needed to have control over perhaps a young boy in 8th grade who was taller and 3 times as big as she was. So they had different kinds of punishments. One, of course, that everyone loves is the dunce cap. When children didn't behave, she would put them in the corner wearing the dunce cap. So we still have one of those. And another great way that she would punish children who weren't behaving would be with a circle that she would put on the blackboard. She would take her chalk and she would draw a circle. She would have the student come up. Johnny, get up here. Put your nose in the middle of that circle, and I want you to stand there and don't move until I tell you. That was a great one. She could have control over her students. But they all learned from 1st grade through 8th grade in this little one-room schoolhouse. They all mentored one another. So when the teacher was working with the little ones, she would assign the second or third graders to work perhaps with the fourth graders, and they might work on their reading. And then later in the day, as time went on, then the older children would help these little ones to work with their letters. And they did some work on the blackboard, but most of their work was done on this slate. These slates were this was like today's paper. They had their piece of chalk, and they all had a little cloth that they would use to erase it. That was where they did their work. The teacher would walk around to see if they were doing it properly, and then they would be able to erase it. Occasionally, she would have them go up to the blackboard and do work on the board. But this was their main way to show her and to practice their work. They didn't really use a lot of paper. It was very expensive back then. And they all had their McGruffy readers. We have those here. The McGruffy readers were the first books that were used in schools. Over the years, they changed. But everyone who is older will remember these from school. So we do have those here in our schoolhouse. The children were pretty much organized the way the children are now. Their day was from 9 until 3. They did have their recess time. They also had their lunch time. They would bring their lunches in the buckets, or they would bring it in a little sack. That would be kept in their the coat room. There was one for the boys and one for the girls. And so their day would end at 3 o'clock. This schoolhouse was the last one to be used in the township. District 54, now because this school is number 54, it does not mean that District 54 was named after this number of the school. It just is a coincidence. But this school, number 54, was the last one. There were children who graduated from this school in the year 1954. Amazing that it would have been going that long. By that time, of course, they did have electricity and they had running water in this building. It was eventually moved here when it closed down, and is a wonderful place to come and visit. I'm glad that you were able to come with me and to see what our class looked like. Here's our desk up here. Not a real apple, but you remember you would always bring an apple to your teacher. They would call you an apple polisher. And then there were the pens. The teachers used these kinds of pens. They weren't really the ballpoints that we use today, and they had their ink bottles, and the children had ink. It wasn't too often that the teacher would have them work with the ink. That would happen in the later years. And so I'm glad that you were able to come and visit. This school is very special here in Schaumburg Township, and we thank the Village of Schaumburg for helping us to maintain it. The Schaumburg Historical Society takes care of the inside, and this is the last of those schoolhouses, the very last one, the only one that is preserved in the Township of Schaumburg.